What's up, Chris? It's Friday.
Friday. That's what I think.
It is
It is.
Friday.
Jay, I'm going to tell you something, and it's a little personal. I'm wearing socks, and that's that. I don't ever wear socks. I'm sure you're familiar with that. Like in Florida, it's just not socks aren't really a thing, if I remember right.
Well, that's funny.
Um,
I'm wearing shoes, and I never wear shoes when I'm working.
I am only wearing socks because it's finally like chilly here in Texas. Not today; it's
Yeah,
75 now, but this morning when I took the dogs out, it was 44. So, whew,
nice.
yeah, that's big change. Big change. Not sure if that weather like swings on to you as well.
Well,
Probably not.
we're coming back up from our cool front. Today's the
Mm,
third day in a row where actually my window behind me is open, and
yeah,
it's been beautiful the last 3 days. Although we haven't had a lot of sunshine today, but I mean it's 78 degrees right now, and it
there you
does
go.
not feel that warm in the house. Yesterday we didn't
Nice.
get to like 70. It was beautiful.
Yeah,
So
that.
still got the long sleeves going. So
Yep. Same.
it's
Same.
winter in Florida.
Welcome, everyone. Right? Thank you. Thanks for listening to us talk about weather. But welcome, everyone to the final edition of this version of On the Rocks,
That's
the
right.
show where we talk about accounting and accounting adjacent information, mostly as it relates to e-commerce, but not only. I'm Chris. He's Jay. We'll tell you more about what I mean by last version of this one later on.
All
Last
right.
week.
Going before we get to that, let's
Oh
talk
yeah,
about this weather thing real quick. I think it's great
sure.
that we're talking
Uh-huh.
about weather and not showing any tropical storm maps.
Oh, I
So
know
I
that's
just want
true.
to say,
No hurricanes this time. Yeah.
hopefully we're done with
No
that.
No hurricanes today. No hurricanes
Yes.
today. Last week when we talked about Intuit and figuring out what they were up to. We will have a fun update on that later as well. This week we're going to talk about holiday planning. It's obviously that time of year where your business might start to ramp up, especially if you're dependent on holiday sales. So we want to talk through a set of strategies or things to consider, pitfalls to avoid, and other relevant topics related to kind of end of year planning. Um, but first, what's happened since we talked last. We got some really big accounting news. The AICPA, they picked their new chief, and his name is Mark. I don't want to butcher it, so forgive me if you watch this. Mark Kozel. Mark, is that do you know Jay?
I don't.
I feel bad. I feel like I should know. He is the current CEO of Lineal Global. Lineal Global is a network of accounting firms that the firm that I was with before was a part of. So Mark comes well. I think he comes back to the AICPA. I think he was there in a role prior from Lineal. So we will see what Mark's leadership is, but it does mean that there's going to be a nice little shakeup, I bet, in the most influential people in accounting because old Barry, he's out, and Mark is in. So I'm sure Mark was already probably pretty high. Lineal Global has $6 billion in revenues between its member firms, so that's pretty substantial. So I mean, Mark was pretty influential already, but I'm sure he's going to move up the ranks a little bit more as the leader of the AICPA. So
Cheers, Mark.
excited. Yeah, cheers to Mark. Exciting to see what comes next for the AICPA and whether some new leadership brings new direction. Um, One other just a more brief accounting related topic that I saw, Acumatica, which is a fun name to say. I don't know much about their accounting software, but they launched a version that supports professional services. So shouts out to Acumatica for expanding. I don't really know what that means, um, or like if there's some reporting that's special to professional services that they've built into the like thing to the software, but um, hey, they got it and they made it onto accounting today. So hey, how about that? Accounting software is making specific versions of stuff for people. Super interesting. Acumatica, the name is very, like I said, it's fun to say. I also have a friend in the community here who used to work for Informatica, which is a very similarly sounding company. So every time I see Acumatica, I'm like, oh yeah, what are they up to? I wonder what my
Yeah.
friend is doing, and then realize it's not them at all. So anyway, it is always nice to see accounting softwares roll out very specific versions for support for certain industry groups. because the whole point of this show is to talk to a very specific industry group, and so being able to support specific industry groups is really important. So I am glad to see that Acumatica is doing that. Whether it means anything or not, I guess is to be determined. But fun to see it all the same.
It's definitely
Matt,
worth another look at it and see what it's all about and see what the specialization happens to be. So
yeah, I definitely saw something else about Acumatica a couple weeks ago because, like I mentioned, the name was like, oh yeah, all right, let me look at that. I didn't realize that my friend was working for an accounting software company, and then realized it was not the same thing. Um, so um, so anyway, that I think is interesting. Those are our accounting updates. Um, then we've got some IRS updates. We did it, everyone. We made it. We made it. The October 15th deadline is behind us, and now you can sleep easy unless you're in Florida or Georgia or North Carolina or like half the U.S.
bring on May
But even
1st.
May 1st, yeah, bring on May 1st. Let's go, everyone. Yeah. So congratulations, you made it. I haven't seen any like exciting reporting or anything related to this, from the IRS about how many late filers they had or anything like that. But they did it. We got there. Um, the IRS, our folks over there at the IRS, they're also, now that the 15th is behind them and they're not worried about collecting returns anymore, they're accelerating some ERC claims up as many as 400,000, many tens of billions of dollars worth of claims. They're bringing back to the forefront, so that's pretty exciting to see. So if you're watching this show, you're probably not, you may be one of those, but you may also not be. But if you are, congratulations, you might be getting picked up soon. So be on the lookout for that. Certainly, if you've got something outstanding there. Also, the IRS has also put out some warnings. So Jay, we made jokes a little bit about the hurricane previously, right? That hey, there's not hurricanes in the news, but the IRS put hurricanes in the news anyway. They said, you know what, everybody watch out. So there's a lot of charities out there that are wanting help and support, but some of those are fake. So they actually put out a warning that there are these fake charities seeking relief donations after the hurricanes. So be wary if you are looking to support. Make sure you're supporting in a place that's actually going to go to that, and not I don't know, some millionaire in California somewhere or something.
And that's not unusual after these storms to see that. It happens a lot, and we tend to be very giving at that time, so people come out of the woodwork and take advantage
Right.
of it. So just keep an eye on what you got going on, and protect yourselves.
That's right. Absolutely. And that is this week's IRS update. We also have a few tech updates. The tech news that I saw this week, I read one article that talked about 3 different like really cool things from some of the big players that most e-commerce folks are going to be familiar with. The first one I thought was super neat, and that is that our folks at Meta, they have introduced some new AI-related tools to improve the ability to create and enhance video advertising on their platform, so on Facebook and Instagram. And they showed a little bit of how this works, right? There's a couple different things that AI is helping to do. The first one is that you can take a still image and move parts of it around, which so the example that they showed was a can of strawberry jam with some strawberries on the background, and then the strawberries were moving up and down and around the little like jam thing, right? And that is a more appealing and more eye-catching ad than just a flat one. And so that I think is really neat. And they also have introduced some functionality that will allow you to be able to take images that from one platform to the other, or to others, like a little bit easier, so that pixelation ratios are changing, that kind of stuff. A little more technical AI update than the like, hey, you can make your picture pretty, but also one that should help to improve like that cross pollination of your ad work. And so be on the lookout for that. I do think that is a super helpful thing, because I know, anytime that you're spending all of that money with Facebook or with Instagram. You want people to actually, enjoy your ad, right? You want them to see it. You want them to catch their eye so that they reach out to you, that they follow up with you, that they click through that link. And so that I mean, it's not surprising that Facebook would introduce tools like this, right? Obviously, they want you to spend the ad money, so to make that better for you. I think that's great, right? Like good on them. And it certainly seemed like a definitely some really interesting like ways for that to work. Oh, you don't think so?
You know, they definitely have that need, and they. I don't know if
Mm,
they should be looking at ways to improve their video advertising. I think they need to
yeah.
look at better ways of looking at their targeting because
Mm,
in the last 3 days, the last 3 days, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, my Instagram and Facebook feeds are full of ads from either tax strategists or bookkeepers or people telling me my CPA might not be working for me but working for the IRS. So it's like, come on, point me in the direction I want to see. I am looking actively at jski.com. I want to know what's going on in NASCAR. We had a
yeah.
big bad weekend in NASCAR last week. Pitch me all that news. I don't care about what my CPA is doing because I'm the damn CPA.
That's
You
right.
know, come on now.
Get it to, get it together, Meta.
So
Come on.
so at
That's a
least
algorithm
and
issue.
full disclosure, I clicked through every one of those ads, so they're paying for it.
Oh, that's too funny. Actually, at one point, I sent. So, I also got this has been years and years ago now. But after I graduated and I've been in professional life for like a couple
Hmm.
years, I was getting Facebook ads for like an MBA program when I already had a master's, and I was like, yeah, it's not really appealing to me. Like, and so I actually sent an email to the company that was advertising to say, hey, you need to talk to Facebook about this because I got your ad and I am not your target market. Like, don't waste your money on this.
Well,
Um,
and actually, it's not really Facebook's problem. The people setting up the ads. There are
mm,
people making a ton of money managing ads for firms,
that's true.
and they are not doing it right. So that's the problem to start with right there. And that's the e-commerce story there. We can go there, in the next couple of weeks talking about
Let's
the
do it.
targeting there. So
I think that's a
tee that up.
yeah, and I do. So make a note. Somebody write that down. Fireflies, are you listening? Write that down. Um, so anyway,
Unfortunately,
so
Fireflies is not in our podcast, but
no, that's fine.
maybe
It
we
was
need
yeah,
to
just a
introduce it.
joke.
Yeah.
Just a joke. That's too funny. When you go through the transcript, write that one down. Uh, so that's Meta. Also in the news from a tech perspective, I talked last week or maybe 2 weeks ago now about the Amazon initiative for their like checking on the vans, right? Where you drive through the thing and they're like, hey, you got a ding here, you got a ding here, you got these types of things to worry about. You need to pump up the tires, right? Like all that maintenance kind of thing. Well, I learned this week that they're also introducing what they're calling Vapor, VAPR. So this is a visual assistant, or blah blah blah, blah or something else, RP, or PR. It does so, but the purpose of this is actually to allow the delivery driver to know where the package is on the van. So they're going to use cameras and LED lighting so that at a stop, the van will light up the specific package and the area where the package is, so that the driver can just like go pick the package and then take it to you, so that they can do more deliveries. And sure, yeah, like ultimately, this is probably not all that valuable to anybody but Amazon, but super super cool though. Um, uh, I
You
thought
can't use a
anyway.
drone. You might as well have better technology in your vans.
That's
So
right, right. Yeah, because people rummage around in the vans, like trying to figure out where stuff is, right? And so what Amazon has done is created a technology that's like, stop rummaging, it's right there, which and it's supposed to like light up in green or something. That is what I read in this article. So like, what a cool technology. Um, and obviously, there's applications to that outside of Amazon, right? UPS can use this, the Postal Service can use this, all of that kind of thing.
heck
And
yeah.
for e-commerce like owners, right? Eventually, like that technology is going to be available to the people that you're delivering through, which means that you're going to have faster and more timely delivery, which does mean like you're going to be competing in that area. And so you may like want to understand like sure, maybe we're talking minutes, right? But if it keeps you, especially in the holiday season, if it keeps you on that day's delivery instead of the next day's delivery, that may be like a really valuable technology. And so it's super interesting to see, and obviously, I'm sure there's like a lot more. Um, there's some impacts that we're not really thinking about, like outside of the delivery space of technology like this. But what do you think, Jay? Any thoughts on vapor?
No, I was thinking it was like a cooling system or something, but that's
Oh
really cool. I
no,
mean, I think that's
yeah,
that's really interesting.
right,
A manufacturing company I worked for them over 20 years ago, and after I left, they built a new warehouse, and it was a robotic warehouse, so they could pick any lot of product and pull it robotically down. It was like a
right,
20 floor warehouse rack, and
yeah,
it shifted back and forth, pulled it down, dropped it, and put it down, just transported it right to the loading dock. So
yeah,
I mean, there's so many applications of that out there. And,
yeah.
what's going through my mind is, well, okay, we're pulling up to Jay's house. Let's pull out his 4 packages and eject them out the roof, and they land up by my front door.
Yeah, like a really well. I mean, if you think about it too, like that is a really good point, Jay. Like
Yeah,
eventually, you end up with the self-driving truck,
yeah.
with the self-ejecting system that just allows the people to just be completely out of this process, and the package is just pew, just like you're talking about, like right on out of the truck. Maybe it
It,
doesn't
it
make it all the way to your
knows it knows that I have a camera or a phone in that box, so that one's going to be placed down gently, or it
right,
will only go 5 feet off the
or the
ground,
little
or they'll have
like
some new
dog robot or
packaging.
something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but they'll know exactly what's in there and be able to place it appropriately.
Yeah,
So
that's
yeah,
a
that's
really I
awesome.
like that. I like that.
Yeah,
Really cool technology. Interested to
for
see
sure.
the like long term application of it for sure.
Yes.
It'll be fun when my daughter's my age to be like, back in my day, vapor was brand new. Um, so and she'll just be like, vapor. That's like 4 generations ago. We're on
Right.
vapor plus 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 or whatever. Anyway, one other tech thing that I thought was interesting and certainly valuable to talk about, at least from my perspective. Google Lens. So the folks over at Google, they have enabled multimodal searches. So you can search Google Lens. I actually saw this in action. I didn't realize what was happening, but I saw a lady who was wearing some glasses and she was talking just like randomly. And I thought she was talking to the people that were with her, but she was trying to figure out what the plant was that was on the patio. And so I think she was asking Google Lens, like, what is this? And so that's
That's
exactly
cool.
that's what they've started to introduce is this ability for Google Lens to be able to use both sight, sound, all of the different functions that you would need, right? All of those different things, multi modes, um, to allow you to search, right? And the application for that for e-commerce entities is that means like I want to buy that plant, or I want to buy that vase, or I want to buy that shirt or that jacket.
Yep.
Like when I find it right now you can find it that much easier through Google, which does have some output for you as an e-commerce entity, right? You need to be able to understand like how Google is doing that so that your product is properly represented in that way. Um, and so I do think that that's a way for business owners to start considering like additional ways that you need to understand how your product's being seen, um, because there's going to be additional application for searches that aren't just like your typical keyword search. This is very similar to the little AI robot shopping assistant that we talked about last week, but a step farther where you don't even have that interaction. It's a picture bot or whatever of being able to say, I really really love those shoes. I would love a pair, right? Like that. That's the application of that. I think is pretty clear. Like how cool that is.
Yeah.
Um, if they get it to function well, and then if you as an individual, right, you get to use it. Like that's really really cool too. Um, Jay, have
So
you ever seen anybody use Google Lens?
I have not, but I
Hmm.
am very curious now, and I'm even more curious to see, is Google Lens connected to Gemini?
Ooh,
So
yeah. I think I saw
could you
the article
take
that
an
I read. I
image
think.
of what you're looking at and voice activated, ask the AI, hey, these are some interesting financial statements. Could you give me an analysis of them? I mean, and then next thing you know, I mean,
Hmm.
and actually, I was reading something today about ChatGPT's image, image to text and image recognition,
Yeah.
and it's gotten to the point where it can look at a pair, of your AirPods. It's too white; it doesn't want to pick up, and
That's
it
right.
can tell you what version of it is based on looking at it.
Oh wow!
So
Look at them go.
things like that. I mean, it's amazing. So if you
Yeah.
pair Google Lens with Gemini, what are you gonna get? I mean, that's gonna be amazing.
Yeah.
And
Super
then what
super
is
exciting.
OpenAI going to do? Because they're going to need something there, an
Yeah.
ocular, tool to connect to feed in and do this live. So,
Right.
again, possibilities are endless.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that I think that's super interesting, and again, the possibilities around it are endless. So it's super exciting to see where that heads next. And that's our tech news. And then finally, our e-commerce news for today. The there are I found an Amazon related blog, so I've got a lot of Amazon things today. So let's run through those. One thing to be very well aware of is effective 10/24. So this is next week. Amazon is changing the timeline for their reimbursement program. So you used to have 18 months where you could request that reimbursement as a seller. Now that's only going to be 60 days. So this is a pretty significant change, and you want to really be on top of that. They did this, Jay. I know that's like, oh my gosh, what? But they also did this in conjunction with their auto reimbursement policy. So where that was supposed to have been cleaned up and a lot better, just kind of on
Right.
its own way. But it's just a thing to be aware of and to take note of because that it is changing and it is a significant change.
It looks like they're changing the terms of service on both sides of the equation there, on the purchasing and the selling side.
Actually,
So,
because it's very relevant to our topic. But
yeah.
Amazon has they introduced in 2024. Although it's possible that a lot of folks haven't really had much exposure to it. But they introduced some low inventory level fees. So they have a stock level that they want you to maintain, and if you do not maintain stock at that level, then you have to pay an additional fee. And so, obviously, as we are heading into the holiday season and hopefully you're selling through inventory, it may be really relevant to you. So, you want to be aware of this as we head into the holiday peak season so that you understand what those implications are to you and how or whether you need to manage them. Um, one one other thing that I saw that Amazon was doing is that they're piloting a program in the Phoenix area where you can finally bundle groceries and non-food. This has been a huge problem in my household specifically because you had to order Amazon Pantry from one product and then like Amazon Prime from something else, and you got everything in different times. But now you can do them together, or you could go pick them up at Whole Foods together like that. Um, they're piloting that program in Phoenix with the intention of rolling that out in other spots. So that I think that's a good thing, and it will be nice to see how effective that is in the Phoenix area, and whether there's any extra update or anything that goes along with that.
So what's going on
And
in the
then,
Phoenix area?
oh, so
This is
Jay,
the
I
third
can't hear you
Amazon
anymore.
update. You cannot hear me anymore. That's not good. You
And
can't.
so
Oh,
I'm
well,
hopeful that isn't just, is it just me? Maybe it's just me
I
who
think
can't hear
it's
you.
just you. I think it's
All
you.
right.
Yeah.
So with that being the case, then I'm going to do some changes on my side. So why don't you talk about Amazon and I'll check back in with you
So
in a second.
he's not going to hear this, but this is the third update that Amazon is putting out that they're piloting in the Phoenix area. They were piloting the drone, and I can't remember what it was last week, but this is like the third thing that they're piloting in the Phoenix area. So,
Well, so they
and it
didn't pilot the drone in the Phoenix area. The drone was in
no,
College Station. They
that's right
weren't going to run
because
the drone. They weren't going to run the drone in Phoenix because it was too hot.
that's what it was. It was too hot.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, it was too hot in Phoenix.
Okay.
But yeah, no, it's I'm not sure why they picked the Phoenix market to be where they
Yeah.
like explored this first, but that is where it's what they chose.
Yeah, I mean,
Maybe they have
it's
a lot
just
of
one
Whole
of those
Foods.
things. You see it pop up week after week. It's like, oh, you got to ask what's going on there.
Yeah.
Maybe their head of experimental tech it lives in Phoenix, and
Phoenix. Yeah, could
that's what
be.
they're doing.
Could be.
Yeah, who knows?
Could be. The last thing that I want to mention, and this guy's name, I have no idea if this guy is an AI or if he is really real, because his name is Mickey Toogood. So Mickey, if you're really real, I apologize in advance. But Mickey Toogood is the like senior leader for Amazon content strategy or something like this. So he made a lot of different blog posts, and so that's why I wanted to bring him up, especially because his name um, seems very unusual in the sense of somebody who's making lots of blog posts. His blog posts are too good. So again, and then he doesn't have a LinkedIn. So I'm not sure, Mickey, if you're real. I'm sorry if you're not real. I'm glad I picked it out. But on the blog, they talked about a few different things that Amazon's rolling out over the past couple weeks. Because again, I found this blog. The first one is that they're introducing a new Amazon shipping mobile app where you can access Seller Central from your phone and be able to see the shipping progress of your stuff right there from your phone. They have introduced a partner carrier program where they're working with third party logistics, and I think we talked a little bit about this before. Third party logistic companies to be able to integrate more seamlessly into their FBA warehouses, and they also had Vigo, which was a Seller Central related analytics program that allowed you to see good fancy information right there on the Amazon platform, so you could get extra information there. So, so Mickey Toogood was the person who wrote every single one of these articles, and so old Mickey was pretty busy, but I'm interested to see all the different things that Mickey keeps issuing and putting out, and I'm sure he'll make an appearance in some future shows at some point or another. So that's obviously a lot of commentary on Amazon. Jay, do you have any extra thoughts related to that?
No, other than I got to go place an Amazon order when we're done here.
Yeah, that feels right. Yeah, that seems pretty regular. The the last two pieces of e-commerce news actually correlate pretty well with our main topic of conversation for later today, and an experience study came out and identified that nearly half, so I think it was 47% of holiday shoppers plan to shop in actual retail stores, which seems like a very high number. And I read that article really closely to try to figure out what the historical number was there, whether 47% was high or low, and it was not in the article. So I have no idea whether 47 is a big number or a small number, but it's still a pretty substantial number because what it means is that 53% of holiday shoppers don't plan to shop in stores, which means they're going to be doing that from their couch. And PwC report actually indicated that an average consumer is going to spend something like $1,650 during the holiday season, and that's up like 7% or so from the prior year. Not you, 1650, not you. A little bit
No,
lighter.
yeah, it's gonna be much lighter
Yeah.
this year because the kid's in college now, and
Yeah, there you go.
she can't have any wants and needs this year. Actually,
No,
she just
no,
got new
not already.
AirPods, so I mean, Christmas has already started.
So anyway, all that's to say, we've already talked about this and touched on this before. Adobe said
Yep.
the same thing. Adobe said like 8 to 9% up. PwC says 7% up. It sounds like it's going to be a good e-commerce period here, which again leads us perfectly into our main point of topic conversation. But before we get to that, two things first. Two things first. First, Jay, what are you drinking today?
Well, I was drinking a cup of high test over there, little espresso
High
coffee,
test.
because I'm
Oh
feeling a
yeah,
little
okay.
down this afternoon, and
Get
topping that
get
off with
pumped.
a cup of water over there.
There you go. Stay hydrated, Jay.
Yes.
Today we're the Tilted Traveler here, which is an Oktoberfest from Siren Rock. I rated the Oktoberfest section. That's the second one is also an Oktoberfest. At the grocery this past weekend because I recognize that they're not going to be available for that long. And Oktoberfests
True.
are my favorite beer of all beers. So I was like, oh, well, we're gonna get as many as I can while I'm here.
So
This one is from Odell.
so when is Oktoberfest season with beer? When does it start?
Uh, Mid-September typically. I think the real
Okay.
life Oktoberfest is the last week of September. Maybe the next to last week of September out in Munich.
Okay.
Um, and so why is it called Oktoberfest? Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's a celebration of October coming. I haven't done any research on this.
True. I'm just
All I know is they
curious,
make good beer.
if
Yeah,
there's been this creeping up, week by week, year after year of
yeah,
Oktoberfest. Now, PSL season starts earlier and earlier every year. I don't know
yeah.
if Oktoberfest creeps up too. Kind of like,
It did.
you know,
It did seem a little early
did
when
it?
they were in the grocery. It did, but I don't
Yeah.
know whether it actually was or if I was
I mean,
just
it's
like,
okay. I mean, it's not a big
yeah.
deal. But I mean, it wasn't even
Actually,
October, and like the WalMarts of the world had all their Christmas displays up.
yeah, that's kind of
I
it's
mean,
getting aggressive there.
I
The
mean, I grew up and I
Christmas
even
reach.
worked in a Sears store in high school,
You
and
know,
it was like amazing transformation overnight. Store closed for Thanksgiving. That next morning, it was transformed, and
yeah,
they did amazing work back then.
yeah, definitely. Now they can do it a little bit slower because they can do it like three or 4 months in
Takes
advance.
them 3 months to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Christmas is already over by Thanksgiving now, Jay. You didn't know? Uh, that's what Black Friday's for. That's the end of
Right.
Christmas.
Right.
Um, the it does irritate me though. I will tell you, like it does irritate me because Oktoberfests are my favorite beer, and a lot of people like them, and they're just never available except for during this little short period of time.
Right.
I don't feel like this is a McRib situation where like, you know, it's good for a little while. You want to get one in like every like
Right.
6 months or something, and that's enough. Like I feel like I could drink Oktoberfest like all year long, and I would be
Right.
fine. Um,
Sure.
but but I can't because they just won't do it. They just won't do it. I don't know. Maybe the grains aren't right. Maybe they need a little more time. Who knows? Who knows? Anyway, so
Look at your
Oktoberfest for me
marketing
today.
people. Look at your needs. I mean,
That's
you need
right.
to take this into
Come on.
account with your forecast. Enough said.
More Oktoberfest. Come
There
on.
you go.
Come on. All right, Jay. Our show last week clearly reached the masses because I wanted to do it just a quick update because Intuit, our friends at Intuit, the TurboTax people, the people that we were talking about and complaining about, because they put out the replace your Tax Pro ad. They took the ad down. We did it.
Did they?
We did it. They took the ad down.
Did they really?
They have committed to taking the ad down. Now,
As of when?
like it's supposed to phase out, which I did think was kind of a joke as well. Like, ha ha ha! Oh, we'll take it down because our ad spinning on it is already out of the window. Like I thought that
So
first, and
so
then my
I
second,
didn't want to
and then my
mention it earlier. I was
yeah
waiting
yeah
for
yeah.
this segment, but I'm still
Uh-huh.
seeing that in my Facebook
We're
ads.
still seeing the
So yes.
ad.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Again,
they
targeting a CPA with that ad, not smart, but I'm glad I am because I'm still seeing it coming through. So,
that's true. Well, and again, they said they were going to phase it out, but I think the most critical thing is that they only said they were going to phase the ad out. Like they're not changing the program, and this is the most critical thing. Is like
right,
they don't actually really care. So sure, they took an
right.
ad down, like whatever. That doesn't make it better. And so all of the topics and all of the points that we talked about last week, now it's even worse because now they're just disguising it. At least before they were being
Right.
open.
And
Now
let's
they're like,
face it, they took it down, or they said they're taking it down because a large professional organization said, you are doing our members and your customers wrong.
yeah.
And they were going to hold them to a different standard or to a standard. And they're like, well, you know what? We're going to reverse course. Well, let's see if they actually do. So,
Well, and again, they've said they will, so we'll see how that shakes out. Obviously, they haven't yet, but an impact occurred. So how exciting that is! Um,
we'll keep you posted on that one for sure.
yeah, as it finally phases out at the Super Bowl. Um,
Well, you can only get that deal up until December 20th.
Oh, that's a good point. See, it was going to
Yeah.
phase out anyway. What
So
a
it's going to be
scam.
the league championship, not the league championship. Not the is it the divisional? Yeah, the divisional
Yeah,
playoff
dude, they
round.
won't. They'll
Yeah.
be they're out in January too, man. Like that ain't it. It's
Yeah.
like week 10 or something. Um,
What's the play? Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
yeah.
Forget that.
So into it, still thumbs down on you. Um, that's how we feel at this show. Now let's get into the real goodies today. Uh, we spent a lot of time talking about news and things, so we may save some of this for next week. But with the end of the year upcoming, like it's the perfect time to make sure that you're well planned for that end of the year, right? And with all the focus that you're getting on ad spend and your marketing campaigns and making sure all that's in order, we want to make sure that you're not like letting anything else slip through the cracks. And so, with that in mind, we want to highlight for you a few areas where you might have some opportunity. And so I think the easiest one to start with in that, and Jay, this is something that we've mentioned on this show before, but this is the perfect time to look at slow moving inventory. Um, and there's a lot of reasons for that. The first one is that you can donate it or you can throw it away. And if you do that with this slow moving inventory, and Jay, you can correct me if I'm about to provide improper guidance, but if you do this, like you can potentially and almost certainly receive some type of tax benefit because you'll be able to dispose of these things. You can write them off. Is that true, Jay?
That is true.
Let's go.
Yes. Yeah, you just you write that off, and depending on if you have an allowance for obsolete
Right,
inventory, you might be doing that throughout the year. But here's where
right.
you would take advantage of it, write that off.
No,
But there's an alternative to that because if you write it off, I mean, you're getting a deduction, but
no
you're not
revenue.
getting the revenue. You're not getting any
Nope.
cash flow from it.
No, that's not as good. The better option, and Jay, I think you'll agree with me with this, is to put it on special. Put a discount on
Yes.
it, slap it on special. It's Black Friday, buy the thing I can't sell. Um, I think that's a I think that is a very I know it sounds silly when you say it that way, right? Obviously, but at the same time, like people are looking for deals and specials. This slow moving
Stocking
inventory,
stuffers or,
like
or
whatever.
things like that. I mean, that's get it out the door. I mean,
This is the time,
by disposing it, gets it off your shelves, frees up the space so you could put sellable merchandise there.
right?
But you're not getting the cash flow to help you buy that new merchandise by lowering
Throwing
the
it away.
selling price, even if it's at or just below break even on that item. You're bringing some cash in for it and, helping the bottom line by doing so. So there's no reason not to do that. And, there's a couple things though, in order to know that you have this slow moving inventory, you have to
Yeah,
be tracking it. You got to have a system that's telling you how
tracking it.
many times you're turning this inventory or how many days worth of sales you have on hand of that item.
Right,
So
right.
there's a couple things that you got to be prepared with there to start with.
Yeah, and so I think that's a really important point as well, because if you don't have some type of inventory management system, you need one for exactly that reason, so that you can identify like what it is that's slow moving, what it is that you're not selling. You might even recommend one right here on my cup. Um,
You heard it there first.
that's
Zero
right. That's
inventory plus. There you
It's
go.
it is certainly an option, especially if you've got some like relatively lower levels of inventory and you need to keep track of it. It's a perfect solution for you. It'll also help with the second thing that you need to be on the watch for, right? With a lot of inventory coming in to support the holiday season, there can be lots of fees, lots of customs, lots of freight charges, lots of other things that go along with that inventory. Where if you haven't been thoughtful in capturing those costs and then of course pricing accordingly, like you're going to do yourself a disservice. And so these freights charges and custom fees and all of that kind of stuff, like are very important to allocate to the inventory, which again, Inventory Plus and other inventory managers can help you with. Um, you want to be able to do that so that you know that your selling price. So when Jay was talking about discounting your product you want to make sure that you've captured those costs as well. You don't want to just discount the product below the cost of the product itself and fly through it, because then you may punish yourself even further than you should have.
Right.
The other thing too is, like Jay mentioned, like this helps with cash flow management. If you understand that these costs are coming and to expect them, you can plan for them appropriately. And so it is definitely a thing that you want to be aware of and to understand your exposure to as you get these goods from, certainly from out of the country, but from basically anywhere. Anywhere has has freight charges as well. So be really cautious and thoughtful about freight and custom fees as we get into the end of the year here. Do you want to add more to that, Jay?
Yeah, a lot of you might have heard the term landed cost thrown around. Landed cost
Yeah.
is the actual cost it takes to bring the product itself and the cost to get it in your warehouse. So that is your total cost of that product. And the reason I bring this up, I was working with a client some time back, and we were looking at pricing of his items, and he's like, okay, widget number one, we buy those for $6 a piece, and we're going to put a 20% markup on there, so the price is going to be 720. It might be 720, whatever it was.
Yeah, sure.
Well, and they put that out on sale, and then I'm sitting there pulling the invoices for it. It actually cost them $8.40 to bring that in. It's like you're losing $1.20 per unit. So you got to be able to look at that and have that information. Now, and this is going to be the running theme here. If you don't have an inventory management system, it's really hard to know what that landed cost is. Because if you're doing it right, it's going to give you that number. And then when you're making that sale, depending on what platform you're in, it's going to say, hey, your selling price is lower than your purchase. So you need to fix that. So,
Right.
it's really important that you're paying attention to landed cost.
Absolutely. And we've talked about that a whole bunch of times. So definitely a thing to be thoughtful about, and very well aware of. um, one other thing, or the next point of topic, right, is forecast misses, right? Everybody forecasts. You're trying to say, I am planning and expecting X, but there are a couple things that you can do wrong, and you want to be aware of, so that you don't blow it too bad. Uh, you don't ever really think about this, but underestimating demand, really big problem. Because if you thought you were going to sell so many products and you don't have them anymore because you didn't, because you end up selling double that amount or whatever else,
Because
like
you created the hot item of the year.
let's go, like that's a thing to be really really well aware of. So you want to understand, like your exposure there, and how much lead time leeway that you have in your product mix that way, because you do want to make sure that you have product to sell. This is a it's a critical part of business, right? So you definitely want to make sure that if you've underestimated demand, that you have a plan to address it as quickly as you can identify that as a problem. Obviously, on the other side, you could overestimate demand. You may have inventory that you thought was going to be the banging item because last year it was, but this year you just don't sell as much of it. And so you need to understand the cash flow impacts of that slower moving inventory. Like, what does that mean? Like, how can you fix it? Do you need to use higher discounts? Do you need to like what can you do? And then also the same things that we talked about before, like the other options that you have to move that slow moving inventory if it's so bad that you just don't want it anymore. Jay, do you have any other thoughts on forecasting misses?
Again, it comes down to having the right platform. But I mean, that's part of it. You need the information, you need to know the historical sales, but you have to have your pulse on the market. You have to know your competitors. You have to know what they're kind of have an idea what they're doing. Because, let's say that next great product that you're coming out with is an upgrade over a competitor,
Yeah.
and you're not aware that they're coming out with their upgrade at the same time, and you made this huge
You,
order. Yeah, you gotta be on top of things like that and paying attention to your market, all the trends, all the competitors, and staying on top. And I keep saying staying on top of it, and that's what it comes
That's right.
down to is having the finger on the pulse of the consumer. It's like knowing that the consumer wants Oktoberfest all year round and
Let's
having it,
go.
or
Right.
or they don't want pumpkin spice beer.
That's
Let's
also
not
BJ.
stock that pumpkin lager, and maybe it is a
No.
thing. I don't know,
Though
but
there's pumpkin lagers. There
yeah,
definitely
I'm
are.
sure there
But
is.
they're just not my jam.
Yeah,
Um, uh, but that speaks to actually our next point as well. Is be cognizant of other potential shipping issues. So there are lots of companies, lots of Amazon specifically, right? They have holiday related deadlines. Like you have to have things in at a certain time, like that. You need to be aware of what those deadlines are, what those deadlines mean, what that time to ship once you get into the holiday season, what that looks like, so that you can prepare for it properly. You also want to be really aware of pricing surcharges. So if prices are going to go up, like we've talked about, USPS, they have a holiday surcharge. Like you want to be aware of that so that you can plan for it properly, so that you can manage your cash flow for it properly, so that you can potentially pass some of those charges on to your customers if that's the way that your business will work. Like you want to, or build it into your own product costs. Like there are lots of strategies that you can employ to be thoughtful of these things, but you have to know about them. And then also when it comes to shipping, like you need to understand what happens if you have shipping delays. Like what? Oh, there's a really late hurricane this year or something. Like what do you do? Like you want to be cognizant and aware of what those types of problems can cause for you. And maybe a more realistic one is there's a huge snowstorm around Christmas time. Like
yep,
that's much more realistic, but you also want to have a backup plan, or understand what your options are, or how you can help your customers to get the products when they want them. Um, and so that may mean providing your own holiday deadlines, right? That may mean saying, hey, if you want to get your product by X day, you have to get it. Your order has to come here, and putting that all over your website and that kind of thing. So there's a lot of things that you can do, but you want to make sure that you've planned for them well. And again, that's a common theme that's run through all of these, and not surprisingly, it's going to run through the next one as well. And that's returns, right? People buy things at the holidays. People buy them for, grandma buys it for their granddaughter. Granddaughter's like, I don't know what this is, grandma. I'm gonna go ahead and send that right.
granddaughter's like, I'm 16, I'm not 48. I mean, come
That's
on.
right.
I know we deal
Right.
with that with my daughter all the time.
I am sure you do, and I'm sure there a lot of people do. And what that means for e-commerce entities, of course, is to like have a good process, like help people to understand what it is that it means. So, like have a good policy in place. Help everyone that's purchasing products from you to understand. Hey, if you don't want it and you need to give it back, how can we make that work for you? And maybe you can't, right? Maybe shipping from Poland is a problem. I know my wife loves a shoe brand that I think they're in Poland, and so when you buy the shoes, the return policy is not very good. You have to ship it back to Poland, and so that can be a challenge, right? But that means that they've prepared for it, right? They understand what's going on. They understand that shipping from the U.S. to Poland is really expensive, and they tell you that up front, and they let you know that up front, and they charge you for it if you need to ship it back. Um, and as long as you're upfront with your customers and clear about what that policy is and how it works, you're gonna be in good shape. But you have to plan for that. You have to be aware of that. You have to understand, like, who is it that's going to buy my product, and what are those situations where it's going to come back. And that also means that it's a very good thing to be thoughtful of whether or not you can sell it again. So it's fine to have a product be returned, if and especially fine if you can just sell it to somebody else. So you want to also have a policy in place, or a set of procedures in place, so that if your product can be resold, um, that you have the capacity and ability to do that. Like Jay was talking about, if your product comes back and you just throw it away because it's a return, like That's zero cash flow, and that's a really bad situation. But if you're
Well, it's
able to
negative
resell
cash
it,
flow
yeah,
because
because you're
you
just
have the cost of the product as well at
yeah,
that point
exactly.
too.
It's just
So,
like you threw it away, right?
yep.
And you shipped it, and you potentially shipped it twice. Like that's a bad situation. But how to make that bad situation a little bit better is to resell the product and to find a way to put it back into the marketplace so that it can be that somebody else who may have interest in it can buy it. Maybe you use the Wayfair, hey, open box or whatever, right? Like there's a lot of different options for how to resell products, and maybe it is you just repackage it and it's exactly the same as what it was before because it's a pair of sneakers or something, right? Like it could be. There's a lot of different ways to make that work. But you need to have policy in place to do that. You need to be well prepared for it. Again, our common theme here. You need to be prepared. Do you have any extra thoughts about shipping issues or returns, Jay?
Well, when it comes to returns, it might also be worth having a reserve for returns.
Yeah,
So, you're kind of expecting a certain percentage of your sales to be returned. So if
yeah,
you're recording that, you're kind of staying up on top of that, and that way you're
right,
not taking a hit all of a sudden based on a period. You know,
right,
um, we had this in the last couple of years. We had return ranges expanded and went from 15 days to 30 days to 90 days, and we're starting to see
yeah,
that shrink down again. But if you have 90 days worth of 90 days to return something, that could impact your financials well after that sale. So
right.
it might be well worth putting in a reserve when you make that sale in that actual month to
Well, and
pull some of that back.
I think that's a really good point to note too, because from a gap perspective, so if you're wanting your financials to be on a gap basis, you have to do that. It's
Right,
not an option.
right.
It's a thing that you need to do. And so if you want to have gap financials, you need to have a policy in place to understand how you can make a reserve for that. And that can be a really easy thing to do because you can use historical rates and all of that kind of stuff of how frequently do returns occur, what's the value of them, like all of that kind of stuff. So it can be an easy process. It doesn't need to be an overwhelming one, but it's certainly something that you should both consider and probably have in place, and definitely have in place if your financials are supposed to be gap.
Yeah,
Um,
and the best thing I can recommend is whatever you do when it comes to a reserve is be consistent. Period over
yep.
period. Unless you have a specific reason to change your methodology, do it the same way every time. Be consistent.
Um, and the auditor in me obviously would agree with this very much. Of like anytime that there's some change in that estimate and the way that it's being developed, my first thought as a former auditor is, how is this guy committing financial statement fraud right now?
Yeah.
So you definitely want to be thoughtful of that and be consistent in whatever it is that you're doing. Um, other things to think about, right? And again, we understand your focus is all over the place, but you want your website to work. Like it's pretty critical at this time of year that your website functions properly, that the performance is good, that people can get from page to page quickly, that they can see the thing that they want to see quickly and effectively. Because if you're not, then people are just going to click off to something else. They're just going to leave. So you want that website performance to be as good as it can be. Jay, do you have extra things you want to talk about there?
Well, I want to just hit on, cart performance. You want your cart to be
Mm.
moving fast and quickly because, like Chris said, people will move on to another site quickly, and then now you have a cart abandonment issue, which you don't want to be dealing with.
No,
And
not not at
one
the
of the
holiday too.
things that I recommend is before you get to the holiday season, dial in any changes you're making to your platform. Do your upgrades, make sure you're testing it, making sure everything's working. Do not add a new add-in or add-on or other product during that peak period. Keep
No,
your site running optimal and don't risk it. I mean,
don't
yeah,
risk
you
it.
might be able to throw something else in there. You know, do it. Try to do it before Black Friday,
Right,
and get it done. But I mean, if you're going to do it, look at your site, look at the hours when it has the least traffic, do it then, test it, make sure it's okay. The other
right.
thing is, 99.9999999% uptime. You got to keep it up and running, and
Yep,
that's the most important thing.
absolutely. Absolutely. And so that comes right down to the same thing that our common theme today: be prepared. So
Be
you need to make
prepared.
sure that you understand what happens if you do have any downtime. What's the way that that's recovered? And then if you have some slowness or some leakiness in your cart time, like how do you prepare for it? What do you do next? So be really aware of that. And then of course, like holiday time is holiday time, but there could be other seasonality issues, right? Like just Jay, do you have any like specific things that you think are seasonality issues people should be on the lookout for?
Well, this isn't exactly e-commerce, but it kind of kicks in with it is kind of because we talked about storm and fraud. I have
Right.
seen ads out for shopping sites, and it's, let's say, Macy's, but they spell it wrong. It's MCAYS. And you go to the site, and then you're buying things. You're not actually buying anything. You're just giving them your money. So
Mhm.
make sure that if the deals look too good, they're actually good, and protect your brands if you can. And
Right.
just make sure that your customers are coming to your site. Make sure you're aware of any lookalikes out there that are trying to copycat you or infringe on your clients or customers. So
Right. And so again, be prepared. So that's what it comes down to, and that's why we wanted to highlight these things for you, so that you can be thoughtful of them, so that you can make sure that you're prepared, so that you can use an advisor to help make sure that they're thinking about these things as well. That's our point. That's our goal. That's our intention. Any
that
final thoughts on?
the
Go ahead.
the final thoughts I have revolve around the holiday season in itself, and it's the seasonality because if you think about an e-commerce business, it could be doing 50 to 70% of its annual business in the last 6 weeks of the year. Now, we've been talking about doing planning and tax planning and things like that, and starting in October. It's really hard to do that when your actual sales aren't even in those first 3 quarters of the year. So
Oh yeah.
one thing that you might look at is changing your fiscal year or your tax year end. Maybe make
Yeah.
it June 30th or September 30th, and shift that so that you get those larger sales in an earlier part of your year, so you actually have time to do some planning, do some tax planning, and figure out ways to lower your tax burden, investments
Yeah.
that can become tax deductions, things like that, and not just take it and run with it at that last period of the year, because at that
Sure.
point it's really difficult to do any planning before you close your January books and get that done. I mean, your books in January for December, because you've got no time to do it.
That's right.
Sales are still coming in. You're reconciling inventory, things like that. And by that time, it's too late to make some of the things that we need to do. So,
Yep.
just last, the final consideration. Change your year end. Not a big deal.
Yeah, think about it. Be aware. Be aware of what that means to you. And again, it's the same thing that we've talked about throughout everything here, right? That's being prepared. So that allows you, if you change your year end, right, it allows you to be prepared more effectively, to be able to make timely tax payments, to do all of the things that you might need to do, because you'll have that much more clarity on what your overall year looks like, because you've
Exactly.
already had the substantial portion of it. Huge thing to think about, and of course, be prepared in all of these areas. Absolutely. Um, so, Jay, what's going on next week? Wait, before we get to that,
Next
hold on, hold
week,
on, hold on, hold on, hold on.
yes.
Before we get to that, let's talk about what's going on next with us. Right? We've talked about this a little bit, right? We mentioned this. We mentioned this when we were in Phoenix, and the thing that we've realized is that we have we have two target audiences in our show today, and we want to like split you guys out so you can each be served properly. And so what we're going to do is we're going to continue to come to you on Friday afternoons, and we're going to come to you for the On the Rocks e-commerce hour, or something like that. We're going to figure out the name. It's going to be awesome. Can't wait to share it with you next week, probably. So be on the lookout for that. We're going to still be here. We're going to still be here talking e-commerce, but we're just going to focus on e-commerce instead of the accounting on Fridays. And then in a couple weeks' time, we're going to start coming to you also on Tuesdays, right, Jay? Tuesday? Wednesday at 6 p.m.,
Yep.
right? While I'm at bowling.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, that's right. So we're going to start coming to you on Tuesdays around this same time. And we're going to talk to you about accounting updates. We'll call that maybe the On the Rocks accounting update show or something like that. Like, who knows what it'll be called. But it'll be a short show where we take the accounting topics, maybe the accounting tech, and talk about those things and focus more on, hey, I'm an e-commerce accountant. What do I need to know? And use this Friday time to talk to e-commerce business owners about what they need to know. And so we're going to take these two different topics, split them out so that we target the right people at the right times. But we're still going to be here giving you loads of advice. And now you're going to get double the fun. So if you want to listen to us twice, you can listen to us on Tuesday and on Friday. And if you specifically like our accounting conversations, or if you specifically like our e-commerce conversations, you'll have a dedicated platform to see that. Jay, I know we haven't really talked about this, but my expectation is that they'll all come up on the same YouTube page, so you'll still be able to see us in the same spot.
Yep, same page. We'll create a new playlist. But you mentioned the names. We're going to do some targeted marketing and figure out exactly the audience and what we should name them. We might use the Facebook ads engine to do it. Maybe.
Ooh.
A little dig there and meta there, but yeah. So. Yeah, we got a little bit of market research ahead of us, but it's gonna be fun.
That's right. And what you need to know now is on Fridays we're coming to you with e-commerce topics. On Tuesdays we'll be coming to you with accounting topics. But we'll still be here, and we look forward to continuing to talk to you and continuing to check in with you about everything that's going on. Did I cover everything for that?
You got it.
I think so. Let's go. Now what's happening this weekend? What's going on? Any weekend plans? What's coming up next week outside of our changes?
Well, next week I am actually traveling again, heading out west, back out to the West Coast, but I'm going south of the border, going to a conference down in Mexico. So I'm looking forward to that. I checked the weather. The family's going to be fine. We have no storms coming. Everything's going to be great.
Which one's on that side? Cabo?
Guadalajara.
Oh, you're going to Guadalajara. All right.
Going to the Guadalajara, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Fun.
Yeah. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, I can imagine. Can't wait to hear a little bit more about your Guadalajara experience next week.
For sure. We will definitely talk about that.
Are you pizzaing tonight, or what do you got going on this weekend before you get out of here?
Tonight.
Yeah.
I don't know what we're doing for dinner tonight. My wife has a workshop that she's doing tomorrow based on, I don't know, it's therapy stuff.
All good.
If I see it, I'd know it, but I don't remember it. But it's on the polyvagal theory, but whatever that is.
Sure. You know who doesn't know what that is? That's me. I have no idea what that is.
Right. So it's going to be a very low-key night tonight. Probably she's going to be exhausted tomorrow. It's going to be low-key tomorrow. But my daughter is coming home next weekend, and she says, Dad, I'm bringing Kaylee home. She wants one of your pizzas, so I'm going to have to make pizzas next weekend. So.
And for the college friends? Oh, my God.
Yeah. So.
Oh, my gosh.
And that was the whole conversation yesterday. She calls me, FaceTimes me. And coming home, need pizza. See ya. Bye.
That's what I have to look forward to in 18 years from now in the 2040s or whatever.
Yep.
Can't wait. Love it.
Even there was a conversation via text yesterday about something. Just, Dad, I told you it got canceled. I said, yeah, you told me it was canceled, but you didn't tell me it was rescheduled for Friday. Oh, okay, good point. And that was it. Just stop right there. So
too funny.
But we had a lot of controversy in NASCAR last weekend.
Ooh, did we?
We had a first-time winner in the Xfinity Series have his finish negated because they threw the yellow flag while he was that far from the start-finish line.
What?
And it was about 20 seconds later than it should have been thrown. and then he got passed for the lead when they restarted.
Oh,
And
what?
and a bigger issue than that was we had the cutoff race for the round of the playoffs going from 12 to 8, and my driver Alex Bowman finished
Mm.
18th, and he had enough points to finish in the top 8, but they found his car was too light and they disqualified him. So
Seems
he is
right.
out of the playoffs.
See you
And
later, Alex.
they decided not to appeal that ruling, which I found very strange because the
Was that because
car
they
did
actually
go
cheated?
airborne.
Oh.
They, I mean, why do you not? So the car went airborne, and parts fell off the car. You could see it in the replay,
Oh, yeah,
but
okay.
the tolerance was 17 pounds, and
Oh,
they
yeah, it wasn't
could
17
have
pounds
been,
parts.
and they can move things around in the car, but they let him put gas in it. They let him refill the fluids. It was still too light. I want more. I want to hear from Alex. I want to hear from his crew chief. I want to hear from his crew chief's wife, who's a Fox reporter. I want details. So yeah, so I'll be paying attention to that.
That's fun.
And the other sad part for me is this is going to be my first year in 3 years. I'm not going to be in Phoenix for the championship race. So I'm
Oh,
trying to absorb
no.
as much as I can right now. So
How
it's
far
all
is
good.
it? Like 3 weeks from now or 2 weeks
It
from now?
is 3 weeks
4?
from now. Yeah.
3 weeks from now. Yeah, bummer.
Yeah.
I'm
So,
sorry to hear that. I'll have to
but you know
keep
what?
track of it. All these guys, I don't even know their names anymore, but
Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah.
So actually last weekend I went on a coffee crawl with my wife, and while we were going to coffee shops, I saw this art piece, and I absolutely loved it. And it was at a price that I was like, hey, you know what, that's a really reasonable price for this, and it fits perfectly with the like aesthetic of everything that I have in my office space. All this colorfulness. Yeah, there you go. So zoom it in here. I'll turn.
Super colorful. I love it.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly that's my like theme broadly
Yeah.
is colorful stuff. And I can tell you a story about that at some point in time. I know we're a little long today, so I'm not going to do that today. But this piece is called Courageous Love. And that was what was on the wall right there at the coffee shop where I picked it up at, right? It was the last stop that we had on the day of our little coffee crawl, so it worked out perfectly from that perspective. But I always like to have a story with art that I have, and and so this one I didn't really have a story except that I went to a coffee crawl, and so I found the artist on Instagram, and I reached out to them directly. I was like, I know that this is called Courageous Love, but can you tell me a little bit more about it? Like, tell me, why is it called that? And the story that I had, I just have to share because it was such a wonderful story of a piece of art. So Courageous Love is here, right?
Yeah.
That's what it's called. Um, so she created this piece shortly after she learned that her husband was diagnosed at 56 years old with mild cognitive impairment. That's early onset Alzheimer's. It takes courage for him to wake up every day and begin again because he's losing like his ability to remember things, right? And so they vowed to each other to love one another through the good and the bad, and it takes a lot of help for each other as they go through that journey of finding ways to maintain their love and marriage. And so the piece is called Courageous Love. And so I love that. I think it's just an amazing story for the piece itself, right? Yeah, there it is
Oh,
again.
that's awesome.
Standing in
Yeah.
the way, right? So
It's a
that's
beautiful
Courageous Love.
piece for sure.
Right. Yeah, no, I thought so too. And I loved the story associated with it. And I told her, well, that's a lot better than I was expecting, right? I didn't know it was going to be some like fantastic story, but yeah, it's just a great story about a love story, and one that I think that we can all like resonate with about being thoughtful and coming every day to the people that you love with extra thoughts and extra courage, because you don't know, like it could be at 56 years old that you start to forget some of those things, or some tragedy occurs. So
Mm-hmm.
Courageous Love is here now. Nope, it's there now. There now. there now, on my wall, fits right in. I love it. I love that it has a special story. It's better, like I said, it's better than any story I could have come up with to just make it up. So I'm really really glad that I reached out to the artist, and I'm really really glad that it's there on my wall. So
Yeah, that's awesome. Beautiful
right.
piece.
Yeah, and so again, I don't know that I have anything exciting coming up this weekend either, but thank you all for spending time with us today, for watching the show or listening to the show, and we will be coming to you next week with the e-commerce focused version, and then going forward with the accounting version as well. So we can't wait to share that with you, and to really focus on the people that we want to have listen. So. Thank you all for listening today. Be diligent, be prepared, be courageous. Oh, I did it again. Be courageous in your business practices, and we'll see you. We'll see you next week. Yeah, be prepared. See you next week.
Have a great weekend, everybody. See ya.
Bye.